Hello and welcome to a very, very special interview. You might have heard of those birds that represent the voices of, well, many millions of people out here in India. And what we're talking about is also represented by the color blue, which is why we're in a place that's known as the Blue Room. And that color blue is also the choice of India's sports persons on the field. And which is why we're out here to interview somebody who is quite special to the entire concept of blue. And I'm talking about the color blue because it really does represent India. And that is out here right now with me, Taranjeet Singh, the country director of Twitter India. So that's something that's amazing. We're going to speak to him. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure to be out here. You have been somebody who's not been out there in the limelight too much. And not many people actually know about you. For instance, you're somebody who likes riding a bike. You probably choose the paranthas over dosas, as you say often.
Actually, tell us. I'm a foodie, so I like all types of food.
Okay. But tell us a little bit about yourself. You're the man who's right now behind all that's happening with Twitter in India, and yet there's so little known about you.
Like I said, I've been in this industry for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. I've worked with many news organizations. Twitter, I started working with Twitter in 2015, where I joined them to set up the revenue side. The business side of Twitter. I used to manage the revenue. Beginning this year, I took over the responsibility of being the country director. Yeah. It's an amazing ride. It's an amazing platform. Mm-hmm. Lots to learn. India is a dynamic market. Yeah. Love the diversity. Love what happens on Twitter on a daily basis. And, it gives us a lot of satisfaction in terms of adding value to people. On a real-time basis, we've been able to mark a lot of difference with solutions like Twitter Seva, which we've been able to introduce in this country. So it's been a phenomenal journey for me.
All right, but tell us, as a person, you're somebody who has only 2,800 followers as the Twitter head of India. I don't understand that. How do you even manage that? How is that possible?
So let me just put it across saying that it's not about me, it's about the Twitter, the platform I represent. I think that's more important than me as an individual.
Wow. Okay.
I think what we are proud out here as employees who work for a great brand like Twitter is the work we do on a daily basis, and which makes a substantial amount of difference to the citizens of this country. It gives them a platform where it's a microphone for them, for any person on the platform, and have a voice, share their opinions, and also probably interact with people, like-minded people, and also get a diverse perspective.
Interesting. Okay. The one thing that happens very often is that we try to understand how big is India for Twitter. How important is it? Because of our population, 1.3 billion people, we have only 4 crore Twitter active users right now in India. But that's huge. Isn't that still your biggest market in the world?
So we don't comment on individual markets. I would say India is one of our important markets, one of the fastest growing markets also across the world.
One of how many?
Like I said, we don't comment on individual markets. Okay. Yeah.
But
it's an important market.
It's very clear. It's US, UK, and India, from what we
gather. For us, Japan's equally big. Brazil's very big. Okay. Mexico. I mean, there are other parts of the world.
But just the fact that our population is growing and there's so much more internet diversity that's going to come across. It's the digital age, digital India, the concept. You're expecting that it will
like I said, India is a priority market for us. It's one of the fastest growing markets for us. Recently, we've launched the Twitter Lite app in India. Yeah. It's also keeping in mind the way the ecosystem in India is growing. We want that every person who's on a smartphone to have easy access to a platform which will help them know what's happening in the world, get news, updates as soon as it happens. And empower them in all possible ways. So India, like I said, we are making initiatives. There are also a lot of changes going to happen.
So you're not going to say it's the number 1 market for you?
I'm not going to say that, no.
Whether it be Gurmeet Ram Rahim, Triple Talaq, how is it that Twitter viewed 2017? Because the conversations that were driven, the political discourse that was driven was so strong online.
So, Twitter as a platform actually, like I said, empowers people to, share, voice their opinion, have conversations in real times about things they care about. And, whether it's not only just the political discourse, it's also about anything which happens in India and which people care about, happens now on Twitter.
Yeah.
And we love the fact that, we've empowered the people across the world to use this platform in a way which makes them feel.
Somebody might ask today that why does Twitter still have trends when there are paid armies that are actually running it? That question has risen. Does Twitter have a way of tackling that, handling that, a strategy to deal with that? Because it's a well-known fact that even in the political discourse of the country, there are armies that are actually making a particular hashtag trend.
As we know, news today first breaks on Twitter. Trends are super important because, what people care about or what they talk about or things are happening as they're breaking across the world, they happen on Twitter first. Okay. Trends is a great place for people to come and see of, what people are talking about and join conversations and become part of conversations. That's what I would have to say.
The idea that it has given spaces to everyone to comment, and trolls and abusers alike as any other citizen. One instance that comes to my mind is Gauri Lankesh's murder, the journalist's murder, and how a number of people associated with her or her supporters, her friends, were actually abused. And I remember getting an actual statement from Twitter at that point in time. The growing sentiment is that Twitter can do something about this or can do more about this. But is it?
For us, the user safety is of utmost importance and it's probably one of our key priorities now and also going into 2018. We are, user policies are applicable to all users.
Right.
And we are taking very strong action in terms of, we're also helping people understand how they can report abusive language, trolls, or things which they find inappropriate. We're actually making it easier for people to report or mute conversations. We're also taking appropriate action as and when to even block certain content once it gets reported.
And you're making people aware of that also?
Yes, we are absolutely, and permanently suspending it. We did an initiative with a lot of people who use Twitter called tweet surfing, just to ensure that people know how to use the platform much better in a safer way. Like I said, user safety is one of our most important priorities, and we are taking a lot of measures in that direction.
Okay. Is it frustrating for Twitter? Because it's that balance of freedom of speech and at the same time you have these trolls and abusers online. Sometimes you might think as a founder, not you as a founder, but the founder that you sometimes might correspond with, Jack would say, yeah, this is not what we started Twitter for. How does Twitter...
So let me put it across in a very simple way. For us, the user voice is the most important voice, right? But yet, at the same time, they have to follow the user policy guidelines. If you are not seen following the user policy guidelines, appropriate action would be taken against that.
And the speed of Twitter, sometimes it's too late. Is that also something you're working on? So, for example, I tweet something and I get abused immediately, but then it takes a while for Twitter to filter and understand what happened. Like
I said, we are putting down a lot of initiatives and plans in terms of addressing all user safety issues.
Okay, future plans that will come into play.
Yeah, so, and we're happy, we'd actually put down a plan. We're happy to share that with you offline. I mean, we can share a copy of that with you.
Okay, that'd be interesting. Thank you. That's going to be interesting. All right. I know that you guys don't talk about individuals, but you talked about 10 in your press release, 10 who've grown exponentially in the platform.
We've talked about the top 10.
Top 10, yeah,
yes.
top 10. Yeah.
Not the 10 who've grown.
Okay. But you've talked about the top 10 in terms of the numbers, not so much in terms of necessarily the percentage. So what I want to understand with you is that Rahul Gandhi has been talked a lot about on Twitter this time. Let's say this is the year of Rahul Gandhi on Twitter. The last 5 were Prime Minister Modi's years. So I'm trying to understand from you, how is it that you look at his rise on Twitter in percentage or otherwise? Because he has, suddenly, in a sense, woken up to the platform. And it's been very interesting because it comes at a time when he's also become the president, in effect, almost. And it's almost as if it's timed, to his growth. How is Twitter viewing that another big personality is potentially, making his mark on your platform now?
So, leaders across the world use our platform and they use it very effectively to connect with their audiences, connect with their fans, followers. It's great to see Mr. Rahul Gandhi also use the platform well. And also he's come in the top 10 most spoken about politicians in India last year. Okay. But it's amazing to see Mr. Modi's growth. I mean, 51%. He's retained the #1 position on the platform.
Although Virat has had
that's just coming to that. It's amazing to see 2 cricketers come this year in the top 10. This is Mr. Sachin Tendulkar and Mr. Virat Kohli, who've come in the top 10. It was great to see Mr. Akshay Kumar really, increase his follower base and use the platform. He's now within the top 5. So it's been an amazing year.
Just going back to Rahul Gandhi and Prime Minister Modi. Mr. Modi is at this point in time the most followed Indian. It's huge, amongst the top 50 also in the world. Of course, way behind Katy Perry and Justin Bieber. But how is that shaping the conversation outside of India for Twitter?
Like I said, we don't specifically comment on individuals or individual accounts. Yeah. I mean, Mr. Modi is a global leader. But what I can definitely tell you is that in 2017, we're seeing a lot of Indian trends become global. Yeah. I mean, just to give you an example, it was the Global Indian Citizens Initiative, which was like literally trending globally. We saw a trend around the Bollywood glam, around Filmfare Awards, including even Delhi pollution was trending globally. So there are a lot of other Indian initiatives where we are seeing getting a lot of global traction, and it's amazing to see that happening from India.
The one accusation that came, and it has to be asked, is that while Rahul's Twitter followership has increased, there have been accusations that because of bots and this and that. How do we see that? How does Twitter's analytics?
So like I said, we don't comment on individual accounts, so we unfortunately will not be able to comment on that.
Okay, but then you're not denying that could be a possibility.
No, we're not saying anything. We're not going to be commenting on it.
Okay, all right, interesting. Okay, I have to ask you about Gurmeet Ram Rahim because I was there. And there was an internet shutdown, and that's the first time I witnessed an internet shutdown myself. I want to understand from you because there have been a number of more than 60 internet shutdowns just in 2017. And Twitter is a huge platform for instant news. The moment something happens, for example, Gurmeet Ram Rahim, the verdict is announced, and you tweet it out and people know. But we were completely, blanketed out almost. So we didn't know what was happening across the country. But we knew what was happening right then. We were trying to communicate that through the phone line. How does Twitter look at that? What is your policy towards internet shutdowns, and how are you speaking to governments across the world, not just India?
So we have a policy team who works with governments across the world, including India.
The other thing that I want to understand from you, the rise of the women's cricket team through Twitter.
So it's amazing. I mean, what has been while cricket dominated the sports scene in India, cricket's literally a religion in our country, right? It was amazing to see the traction Women's World Cup got. I think as Twitter, we also did something special. We created player emojis of all captains of the 8 teams, which got a lot of traction, including the Indian cricket women's captain. It was amazing to see. It actually became the most talked about women's sport in India in 2017. So a huge amount.
It almost beat the men's for the first time. I mean, not.
It was. I wouldn't say it beat the men's. Like for example, because we've had a lot of cricket in 2017. Yeah. We've had the IPL. We've had the Champions Trophy.
Yeah, India Pakistan.
India Pakistan.
You can't beat that.
So India Pakistan, just to let you know, that particular the ODI broke all records as being the most tweeted ODI in history. It had 1.8 million tweets. Okay. So that's phenomenal amounts of people traction talking about just one match.
Yeah, and talking about how people are talking more on Twitter now, the character increased to 280. There's been a very mixed response online. Some people are saying, why do I have to now read this long message or sermon that's coming from every single one on Twitter? The second is that, Twitter was never a space for nuance. Now it is. Is it here to stay?
Yes. So 280, I think, as an initiative, we realized that there are many different people across the world who use Twitter in different languages. Now, every language, depending on the characters and the words, takes up a certain amount of space. Yeah. Some languages we felt there was a certain amount of constraint. With 280, it actually helps people articulate better and use the space better. Yeah. And that's kind of really, it's been a welcome. And in India also, we've it's been received well. Today, people across languages such as Gujarati, Marathi, Kannada, Tamil, Hindi, English can tweet in 280 characters.
I think the two big issues that have been political issues in 2017 have been GST and demonetization. Tell us a little bit about how the entire conversation around both these two very important topics happen.
So, like I said, Twitter is where things happen now. People talk about it. People talk about things which they care about. Demonetization and GST were huge because they were like economic factors which were coming into the country. Twitter is a neutral platform. It's a platform for everyone to use. Yeah. So you had voices which were pro it. There you also would have voices which did not believe in that vision. But there was a good mix of an opportunity for every individual to see both sides of the story. But this is not only just GST or demonetization. I mean, we saw it across many social issues. We saw it around triple talaq. We saw it around, like the Gurmeet Ram Rahim arrest. We also saw, women stand up for a certain cause with a hashtag called Ain't No Cinderella, which gained. This is amazing to see how women have started to use the platform for causes and
I remember doing a story on that.
A belief, they stand for, which is fantastic. We've seen, entertainment side grow up. I mean, we've seen movies really become part of conversations. We've seen big moments, like I said, Women's World Cup was amazing to see. We've seen conversations across sports, whether it was FIFA Under 17, whether the Asian hockey matches. So, this is happening across. What we need to see is that Twitter is the platform where now today news, it breaks first. It gives an opportunity for people to become part of the conversation in a very live public platform.
Yeah, but tell me something. Twitter is a field that a particular generation or maybe 2-3 generations are not very familiar with. And I say that, let's say, over 40 or 45. And that makes up the majority of our politicians. What I've also seen is Twitter has been interactive with them, having a workshop of sorts. I think it was in Assam, where you actually went and you were interacting with, I think, the government and the politicians, trying to just make them more familiar with that platform. How is that something that worked out for you?
We have teams who work with different establishments, whether it's governments or authorities. I mean, we've rolled out something called Twitter Seva, which was an India first innovation, where outside a few ministries like Ministry of Commerce or Ministry of Finance or External Affairs, we have the world's largest police force using Twitter in terms of customer service.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, yes, you have UP police who's actually today using Twitter.
How have you worked that out? Because that actually has worked beautifully, not just for Mumbai, for Bengaluru, for other cities.
Yeah.
How did you work that out?
It's actually, if you look at it, it is, helping these establishments get real-time access and connect them to people. It's helping them create some dashboards and tools at the back end for them to, help them get all this information in one place and then act on it. Today, if you look at it, all the organizations who started using this service, there is better trust. There is more confidence in them. There is more transparency. There are sentiments increasing towards more positive. And it's amazing to see how, UP Police itself is a case study. I mean, what that team is doing is phenomenal, because not only do they just respond to complaints and they are also rolling out initiatives. I mean, last week I saw, them rolling out a Traffic Month Safety Initiative. This week they're doing something around the Girl Child Initiative. It's amazing to see how these organizations are using the platform, and that's the true power of the platform, and reaching out, connecting to people, helping them in ways which makes a difference in their life. It's amazing to see when Twitter, when people use Twitter to effectively, help them solve problems. We've seen it whether with police institutions, we've seen it with people having trouble, and our external affairs minister.
That's a huge platform that's happening big time.
It's amazing to see government actually use it really effectively to build the brand, Make in India, connect with leaders across the world. I mean, we did have Elon Musk tweet back to Make in India about an initiative.
No, thank you so much for this interview, and even our passion for riding bikes. I look forward to sometimes joining you on a ride somewhere.
Let's do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.